I'd like to call to order the Town of McCandless Council's regular business meeting for agenda for February the 26th, 2018. We'll begin with the invocation by Councilman Mertz and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam President, I'd just like to request a moment of silence in respect for all groups and citizens of McCandless.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Move to approve the minutes of council's regular business meeting of January 22nd, 2018, as submitted to each member of council.
I second.
Is there any council members have any comments on the minutes? Any citizens? Comments on last month's minutes? There's been a motion to approve the minutes. There's been a second. Time provided for corrections. All those in favor of accepting minutes as they are, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motions are adopted. The next item is announcements. Just really one announcement. You may notice something a little bit different here on this wall, and that is our time clock. It will be run by Marie. Whenever a constituent comes to the microphone and states their name and their address, the clock will be on, start on 5 minutes, and then count down. So that way everyone can look and see how much time they've had. In the interest of fairness, we wanted to have that visual that people can see. And if the individual stops and council says something, then the time on the clock will stop. So it will be for 5 minutes for when the citizen is speaking.
And you may note that's a temporary installation because it just came here Friday. We're not going to keep the Band-Aids on there.
All right, reports from committees. Motion to ratify checklist number 2, January 11th, 2018 through February 7th, 2018, totaling $977,175.76 as submitted to each council member posted on the bulletin board.
I second.
Is there any questions by council? We had this during the finance meeting for everyone to look at. Are there any questions by any citizens about the list of bills? There's been a motion and a second. There are no questions. All those in favor of accepting the checklist listing of bills indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Move to accept the resignation of James J. Wallert as a member of the McCandless Town Sanitary Authority.
I second.
Any questions or comments by council?
If I may comment, Mr. Wallard is taken ill, so our thoughts are with him that he's not going to be able to finish this term.
Any questions from citizens? All right, there's been a motion, a second, and time for questions. All those in favor of accepting the resignation of James Wallert indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Move to appoint James J. Forsey as a member of McCandless Town Sanitary Authority with a term to commence immediately and expire December 31st, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any questions by council? Any questions from the audience? There's been a motion and a second, and time for questions. All those in favor of appointing James J. Forsey to the Sanitary Authority indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Move to adopt ordinance number 1472, an ordinance providing the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as part of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of the town of McCandless, Pennsylvania. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions by council members or comments?
This is a by year, two-year, updating the codified ordinances.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
These are just ordinances that have been adopted and they get codified
Right.
and put in our.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Okay.
Right. Any questions or comments from the audience? There's been a motion and a second, and time for questions. All those in favor of adopting the ordinances and codifying them indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Move to adopt resolution number 2 of the 2018 series, a resolution amending resolution number 25 of the 2016 series, the town's appointment policy for authority boards, commissions, and advisory committees. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments by council members? These changes were made in the spirit of encouraging more citizens to be involved and making them available to more people in the community. So that's what these changes were about. Are there any statements or questions by citizens? Yes.
Brian Moore, 919
Hold on
Cumberland
just one
Road.
second, Mr. Morse. We're just learning to use the,
Well,
You're our
she-
first person.
you're our first person to use the clock. Okay, thank
I'm
you.
on. The changes that you're making to the appointment policy, particularly the limitation on terms, the incumbents must reapply. The incumbents must pass an extra review by the chairman and the liaison of the board. So you have two people, one Mr. Reliable and one Mr. Wannabe. Mr. Reliable's been 8 years on the commission. Mr. Wannabe, well, he doesn't want any bubblegum sales in the community. Mr. Reliable wants what's best for the town of McCandless. Mr. Wannabe wants power over the decisions. Mr. Reliable has a willingness to continue serving. Mr. Wannabe never attended any of the meetings, which I've attended most all the meetings over the past several years. Rarely has it ever been asked what meetings the person who was applying for ever attended, if any. Mr. Reliable missed very few meetings, and Mr. Wannabe didn't go to any. Mr. Reliable has knowledge of critical areas and how the system works. Mr. Wannabe just wants to stop bubblegum sales in the community. Mr. Reliable is qualified by past experience. Mr. Wannabe claims to be qualified in a roundabout way. Bottom line is, council should stop bickering over old versus new. Drop the conditions focused on removing certain individuals. Do not add term limits which spit on the records, knowledge, and experience of the incumbents. Put the best people in the position, and the proposed loosey-goosey changes do not improve, and they may detract from this situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I will say that I do have a problem with removing someone who has done a very good job for a length of time for the town of McCandless just for the sake of change. I just feel if someone has done a very good job and they're interested in staying in the position, council has that decision to make whether they think they should stay or not. But my feeling is just to remove them for the sake of change, I don't agree with that.
I think our discussion was not to remove anyone, but to just give others a chance to be involved. I think that's what our goal was, is to just allow other people. If you serve 3 terms, that could be 15 years or 12 years, and sharing some of this, other people want to serve too. So allowing other people to be involved was what we were, that's what we were looking at. We weren't looking about removing anyone or trying to say their service was not outstanding and we didn't appreciate it. We were just trying to, there were several comments about, well, once you're appointed, there's no reason for anyone else to apply because no one else is ever going to be appointed to a position because the incumbent was reappointed, well, been 100% of the time. And so that's what we were trying to do. We were saying 3 terms, is service, good service, and we appreciate that. And other people, give other people a chance to be involved, to kind of share that ability to serve.
In response to Brian's concerns, remember, they have to be qualified applicants, and we would interview them and see their resume and be able to determine whether they're qualified or not. In all respect to you, Brian, but the key thing is that they're qualified applicants.
Are there any other comments from any citizens?
I was waiting to make a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Madam Chair, a question regarding item number 9 in the Exhibit A, that it says those appointed to positions after June 1, 2016 may hold no more than 2 scratched out and 1 is substituted, a former position at one time. I thought that we had some discussions about on the grandfathering issue.
Right.
And the June 1, 2016 date may have been erroneously carried forward, am I right?
Anyone who is currently serving would finish out their term. So everyone would be grandfathered in, but when their term was up, whichever is the shortest term, if your term was up next year and then in 4 years.
Yes, thank you, and I do understand what you just said, but I wasn't, does the appointment policy say that somewhere? What you just said, the grandfathering issue?
It does not say, I don't see that it says that we grandfathered them in, but the fact that we would not, it doesn't say that it would be effective immediately, I think implies it would be grandfathered in.
But don't you think that those words should be added?
We can add them, it's fine with me.
I do
I like
feel
to see
that they
them
should
added,
be.
just so there's clarity
Right,
for a board, another time.
exactly.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I wrote down the words, I think, in summary, maybe if Mr. McKim would accept them, he could amend the motion. Any incumbent currently serving may serve out their term.
on number 9.
Before it gets, and Madam Chair, that would be acceptable to me. That, I think it gets at the concern that I had.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Currently, do you want to make a motion to amend that, or or I can do it? You want me to do it?
Well, just totally have that written down.
Any incumbent currently
I could,
serving.
if you'd like me to read it again, I
Could you read
will,
it
and then
all-
you could,
all
I
at
would
once?
say,
Just-
suggest you say so moved. Any incumbent currently serving may serve out their term.
Where are you going to place that language, sir?
At the end of the first sentence, the only sentence on number 9.
After 1-9?
Yes, sir.
One time. I accept that, what Toby just read, and I accept that as my own language.
So you're making a motion
So
to
you making a
amend-
motion?
You're making a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor to include that language.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll need a
I
second.
second the amendment.
Is there any other comments or questions on the amendment? Any comments or question on the amendment from the audience? Is this about the amendment?
Not about the amendment, no.
Okay, all right. or if there are no questions or comments, all those in favor of amending this motion to include any incumbent currently serving may serve out their term, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Now we're back to the main motion. Is there any further comment?
Madam President, just one comment. This is an extremely a difficult balancing act for a government to want to encourage participation and at the same time take advantage of the full resources and the institutional knowledge, perhaps, of members. I will point out that this change speaks to consecutive terms, and so that in the future, if a very excellent board member is available after a vacation, for instance, of a term, would have the opportunity under this change to reapply for that membership and be reconsidered. And I think that was a good compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments about this motion?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Donald Green, 800 Village Drive, number 102. I would encourage the council to adopt the proposal as amended. I have continue to serve on numerous nonprofits and ecclesiastical bodies, and best practices in nonprofit world encourages term limits on all positions. And I think this encourages more participation by residents of the town of McCandless and ensures that we are constantly following best practices. I encourage the adoption of the motion as presented.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, since we have a motion and a second to adopt the change in the resolution of the town's appointment policy and have taken time for questions and comments, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Move to adopt resolution number 3 of the 2018 series, a resolution promoting, excuse me, equality, diversity, and inclusion in the town of McCandless. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comments from the town, from council, or any questions?
Madam President?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would like to move to amend said motion and paragraph 3 to insert the word lawfully in the second sentence.
Where would you insert lawfully? Where, like in what
Between
words?
would and seek, between would seek, would lawfully seek residence.
There has been a motion to amend paragraph 3 from all those who seek lawful residence. Is that,
We need a second on that.
I'm calling for a second right now. That's okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any questions or comments by council?
And the word was would lawfully seek, correct?
Right, you've got two different things now going.
Would lawfully seek residence.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay, sorry.
that
Put
was
it-
my,
put
that
in
was
the
my
wrong word.
amendment.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, but would you please, that did change. What
I'm
is
sorry.
the motion?
The motion is to insert lawfully in paragraph 3 between the words would and seek in the second sentence.
So we agree with
The second
lawfully
line.
seek.
For all who would lawfully seek residence in or visit our community.
Didn't the motion start off with seek? I think there is a difference. Who would seek lawful residence? Wasn't that what we were?
He said would lawfully seek.
I said would lawfully
No, I
seek.
understand that. Is that what we want to say, I guess?
Would seek lawful? I'm fine with that with that change in the amendment.
Essentially the
It's the same thing.
Same
I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
You're fine with what I said?
Yes, who would seek lawful. I would like to change my motion, my amendment motion to read would seek lawful
That's-
residence in or visit our community, if that's more appropriate.
Thank you, that gets at my point I was trying to make.
Is there a second to that change?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? What would that change add to this resolution?
That change would just suggest that we would not welcome wrongdoers, people, fugitives from justice, is my thinking. And I agree with the motion fully, but I'd like to just add that clarity.
And, all right, I'm just looking at this, visit our community regardless of their, so how would we quantify that? How, I'm afraid that.
Is this some sanctuary city thing?
I'm trying to understand
Right.
what we're, if we start making exceptions to who we accept and start excluding people, I'm afraid that we're gonna set ourselves up for, some issues. How do we quantify that?
Well, I mean, it really depends on, what the sentiment that council is trying to set forth. I think that one change would be, for instance, illegal immigrants would arguably at least not be seeking lawful residence or lawfully visiting the community. So that might be one group that, that would, be excluded. Fugitives, anyone else kind of here for all the wrong reasons. So I think that would be the effect of it. Now, this is essentially kind of a town policy, kind of a, a statement of the town's position just generally. So, it doesn't necessarily open up the town to liability, but you do want to be clear as to the sentiment you're trying to set forth.
My sentiment would be, I'm sorry, Madam President.
Yes.
My sentiment would be that just to ensure that I'm following the oath I took, which would be to honor the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Pennsylvania, to uphold those laws, and just for clarity's sake, so there could be no misunderstanding, that we were in fact upholding and had every intention of upholding our constitutions.
That's the purpose, Madam President, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. That's essentially what my intent was, we didn't want an unlawful resident, a lawful resident. It didn't seem to me that ought to be controversial. Just whoever is seeking residence lawfully, or, and then visitation is the second one. And that's, I don't think lawfulness applies to the second option. I don't see how we could be opposed to having a lawful resident. It's not what would the contrary result would be an unlawful resident? I don't think we can go with that, would we? Thank you.
Any other comments by council? Any other comments from the town residents on the amendment? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded, and time allowed for questions to amend this resolution for paragraph 3 to read, the town council further affirms that the town of McCandless is a place of welcome and hospitality for all who seek lawful residence in or visit our community, regardless of the country of origin, race, native language, religion, or sexual orientation. All those in favor of that amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment to the resolution carries. Now we are back to the main resolution. Are there any more comments from council on the main resolution? promoting equality, diversity, and inclusion in our town. Are there any comments from the audience or questions about this resolution? Okay, hearing none, there's been a motion, a second, a time for question. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 3, promoting equality, diversity, and inclusion in the town of McCandless, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. A special thanks to Reverend Green for providing us with a nice framework to work from. Made our job easy. Thank you, Reverend. Public safety?
I move to appoint Richard C. Sorrells as a police officer for the town of McCandless, conditioned upon following passage of physical examination, psychological examination, and physical agility test pursuant to the memorandum of understanding between the town of McCandless and the McCandless Police Office Association, and the receipt by the town of McCandless of a current NPOETC certification.
Second.
Are there any questions from council members? No? Any questions from the audience? Oh.
That's okay. Any questions from the audience? This gentleman will add a nice addition to our police force. I think we're all very impressed with him. Is there, we have a motion, we have a second, we've provided time for questions. All those in favor of accepting Richard C. Corellis as a McCandless Town Police Officer indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have a new police officer,
As long as he passes his test.
as long as he passes his test.
Okay, I move to adopt the resolution number 4 of the 2018 series, a resolution updating the town's emergency and management plan.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to adopt the updated version of the town emergency management plan. Any questions by council? Any questions or comments from the audience? This is a plan that has to be updated every so often for our town in case of an emergency situation. We are going to be doing a in-service, if you will, for council on what our role is and what the team players are in emergency management in the future. So we'll be doing that. Did we vote? Okay. Okay. So we have no comments. We did comments. Okay.
I have a question here, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
very briefly.
You may.
Is this the area, the substantive area, where some of us have yet to complete their training in the in emergency?
Yes.
Yes.
Bill, you were the only person who's completed that training, and yes, we all
No,
will have to do
I was
it.
told. Okay. It's great to be in that
We're
position.
going to have to do it, Bill.
Madam Chair, I studied real hard.
I know you
And I
did.
want to have to see everybody else suffer through as I have
Yes,
to.
we believe in equality here, so
Right.
we'll suffer through also.
Thanks for chiding me. I probably deserve it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We've provided time for comments to adopt the updated town emergency management plan. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Is there any new business?
Madam President?
Yes.
Madam President, I make a motion that Councilmember Stephen E. Mertz be censured for offensive conduct, including the use of abusive, derogatory, and profane language resulting in the intimidation of minors, the use of rhetoric denigrating a particular religious faith, and social media posts which deeply offended and harassed citizens of the town of McCandless. Whereas Robert's Rules of Order list formal censure as an allowed form of disciplinary action which a body may use regarding the conduct of one of its own members, and whereas it is in a widely reported altercation occurring on November 7, 2017, between Councilman Mertz and children of the Mueller family, Councilmember Mertz's behavior and actions violated the accepted standards of our community for decency, civility, and respect for all faiths. And whereas Councilmember Mertz subsequently listed the names of the children and further disparaged the Mueller family on social media on December 21st, 2017. And whereas on January 15th, Councilmember Mertz agreed to provide written public apologies and to refrain from using profane and insulting language when dealing with the public and on social media. And whereas the written apologies provided were found unacceptable to the aggrieved parties as wholly lacking in remorse and sincerity. And whereas on February 1st, 2018, council members were copied on attorney correspondence dated January 30th, 2018, regarding a cease and desist demand to stop continuing defamatory comments and harassment by Councilmember Mertz on social media, targeting a McCandless resident and their business. And whereas members of this council should hold themselves to a higher standard of conduct, one that shows a conscious awareness of our role as representatives of the public in everything we do and say. This awareness should display dignity and integrity at all times, demonstrating worthiness for the office we hold. And whereas the members of Town Council pledge their commitment as elected officials of the town to monitor our own speech and attitude as public officials who by our election have merited the public's trust against any derogatory and hateful speech. Therefore, I move that Council Member Stephen E. Mertz be censured by the Council of the Town of McCandless for conduct unbecoming of a member of this council, and Town Council hereby condemns this conduct and behavior in the strongest possible terms.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comment or
Well,
questions?
I
for
Madam
Council-
President,
I thought we were supposed to review the written letters he was going to send out as council, and I thought, in fact, some of us did review them, and we didn't comment on them, so he could give him a chance to change them. Was that right?
They were given to everyone in town council,
Right.
and nobody asked for any changes whatsoever, and they were mailed out as we agreed upon. Apparently, what we agree upon holds no water, because apparently we just choose to do whatever we want. Apparently, people who are calling themselves Christians have no idea what forgiveness even means, because even after I have apologized, whether or not they like the apology or not, for months have repeatedly attacked over and over and over again. The letters themselves were what we agreed on. We didn't agree on whether or not you liked them.
Are there any other
Well-
comments?
Well, the letters themselves, we had a chance to voice our comments, I thought, and he was to change them if we didn't like them.
Madam President,
Yes.
my understanding of the review was simply to acknowledge that they were sent. It was not our place to determine whether the adequacy of those apologies for the aggrieved parties. It was agreed that the apologies should be contrite and needed to be accepted. Now, I make this motion with the sincere hope that it will have a lasting and a positive effect on our fellow council member and his behavior towards those that he disagrees with. The aggrieved parties have been patient. They've been patient with us and trusting that we will do the right thing. Now, nobody here tonight is more disappointed than I am that this could not be resolved amicably with apologies. I withdrew my resolution to conduct an investigatory hearing specifically in the hopes that this could be resolved that way. This public reprimand and rebuke of our fellow council members' behavior is the most serious action afforded us at this time, and I sincerely ask for the council's full support to conclude this matter as a body.
Conclude.
So,
Steve, may
Greg,
I-
or,
Madam President.
excuse me. Greg, are you making a motion to amend this and take the apology section out, or are you just, is that what you're saying? You want to
I'm afraid
amend
I don't
it?
even have that.
I think it was.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Copies made.
Okay,
Motion.
pass that, let me see.
Motion.
I don't know if
Bills.
that was ruled out by that section. I'm sorry, I thought everyone had it. Go ahead, you can make a comment while he's reading, I think.
I'd just like to make a comment, not to belabor the point, Steve, but when I received this piece of paper, and basically that's what it was, a piece of paper with 20 words on it, to me, was not a letter of apology. That, to me, was, not that I expected a lengthy letter, but certainly more than 20 words on a piece of paper to let us know that you were truly sincere.
Are there any other comments by council members?
Madam
While we're waiting
President,
for while we're waiting for this.
Madam
comment.
President,
Yes.
I will add that I did offer to assist Councilmember Mertz in the writing of those apologies, and he declined that offer.
So are you withdrawing the motion and saying you will help Mertz, Mr. Mertz, write the apology?
Madam President,
Yes.
I am not withdrawing the motion to censure. I'm afraid that we are beyond that. I believe that this body needs to conclude the matter, and I believe that this is what is necessary at this time to add to the gravity of what these actions have caused in this community.
I believe that this is Bill.
Please be recognized, Madam Chair. Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Madam Chair, I believe that this is Bill's effort at ignoring bigotry for his own personal friends and neighbors in his personal churches and groups where he hangs out. This would not be, never have happened with any other council member, including himself. I've heard the same language from him. I have many questions about his behavior. I have a lot of questions about why we agree on something and then change it after we've agreed on it. But you know what? In the interest of getting this over with, censure me. Do what you have to do to make yourself feel wonderful about people who don't like gays living in the community, Muslims living in the community, or any other problems that they have because they believe their religion is superior to everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. There's no way in the world, I didn't hear that type of.
You weren't there, Greg. You were there for the first
wait a
part.
second.
Wait a second. We will have order
Sick of that
here.
lie,
We
too.
will speak one at a time after being recognized by the
there's no way
chair.
in the
Greg,
world
you've been recognized.
Yeah, there's no way in the world that I heard that language of throwing stones at gays and deporting Muslims. And I asked one of the children if they said that, and I believe him because they're an excellent family. They're an outstanding family, and I would not want to disparage them at all or have them disparage you. You're continuing to disparage them, and I don't see any reason for that.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Bill. Mr. McCandless.
I in general agree with what Greg just said, but the recitation that Councilman Mertz just made a few moments ago is precisely what the problem is. I mean, that's virtually another attack on these people that, I wasn't at this polling place, but I know that to disparage the kids, Joanne and the others, and the whole parish of St. Alexis. I just think that's just wrong to do that.
Well, because it didn't happen, Madam Chairman. These
Mr. Mertz,
accusations.
You may speak.
These accusations, this idea that I have attacked the entire parish of St. Alexis is ridiculous. Repeatedly, I have said that I didn't attack the entire. I am not in agreement with anyone who happens to be from St. Alexis, who is racist, bigoted, or sexist. That is not the entire community or congregation of St. Alexis. It probably never will be. So this idea that you have repeatedly brought up isn't even true at all. The idea that I am the only one in apparently the township that should watch what I say and accept whatever everybody else says is astonishing to me. Because if someone was coming up attacking Bill's family or Joanne's family and anyone challenged them for how they responded to them, That would be completely outrageous in all sense of the word. I mean, it just blows me away the way you guys do not worry about the particular person unless, in my opinion, they are the white Catholic, even worse than just Christian. The white Catholic is the one who I see repeatedly. They're the only ones who should have a right to speak. They're the only ones who should have a say. Beyond that, the letter written about my cease and desist, which shouldn't even be brought up, is written by someone who has constantly, for months, completely attacked me in public, and I have never attacked, other than responding directly to their comments and their attacks. And I realize that this is one of your sponsors and how you got elected, but that's absolutely astonishing to me that you think that it is okay for someone to attack me and attack me and attack me.
Please address the chair. Speak to the chair.
Censure me. Do it. Get it over with. And then shut up about it.
Are there any other comments?
Madam President, I agree.
Ms. Schweiger, you have a comment?
Can I make a motion to table this? Only because I support what Greg has said in that we agreed for Steve to write these letters. And we all realized what was going on then. It's still the same story now. He wrote his letters, whether they're 20 words or 3 words of I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I just think we need to put this to rest. This is just, I can't believe how much time we've wasted on this. It's upsetting me, and I'm sure it's upsetting everyone else here. This is just unbelievable.
There's been a motion to table. That would need a second. Is there a second? There is no second. There's no vote. The motion fails. Is there any other council member that would like to make a comment before we go to the citizens? Any citizens that would like to make a comment? Yes.
John Harrison, 1473 Hedwig. Sitting back, watching what's going on, reminds me of a 3-ring circus. And from that standpoint, council asked Mr. Mertz to do an apology letter. Mr. Mertz did the apology letter. Council reviewed it. Nobody seemed to have, from what I'm hearing here, had any issues with it. So Mr. Mertz sent the letter on. Now, the letter that was sent out doesn't seem that it meets the criteria of I'm sorry to the people that were offended. Whether that is coming back from the people that were offended that they don't accept the apology, whether it come back from the people that received the letter that don't like the apology as far as the wording goes, whether it goes to the fact that people on council who looked at the letter, seen the letter, approved the letter, said, okay, send out the letter. Now they're thinking about it. Well, I talked to my buddy. My buddy said, hey, I don't really like the way this letter is worded. It doesn't say I'm sorry enough. It doesn't go into great detail as far as what Mr. Mertz did wrong, didn't do wrong, whatever. And so from the standpoint, the amount of effort that's been wasted on this when we could have done something that was very positive for, and sitting there watching people roll their eyes. It's the exact same thing that goes on week after week when things are going on up here. You don't like what somebody says, so you sit there and roll your eyes. You don't like what somebody says, you go and throw things back against them. Grow up. You're adults. Instead of sitting there rumbling through your folder and not listening, respect the people that are in front of you, the people who put you in office.
Please address all comments to the chair.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So from that standpoint, I don't understand what the issue is if the letter was accepted by council as an apology, and it was sent out. If it wasn't accepted by council, why was it sent out? Everybody that's up here agreed to it and sent the letter out. That should have been the end of the issue. Instead of talking about things on how we can improve the community, how we can make things better, we sit there and keep hashing over this same thing, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. It's a waste of all of your time. It's a waste of us as taxpayers' time of sitting there doing it. First off, you didn't ask me if you could record me. Please erase it.
The meeting's being recorded.
It's being recorded there, not by you. Please.
No, absolutely not.
It's been recorded for the last year.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
She's allowed to record the meeting under the Sunshine Act.
Okay. Excuse me? So, I would ask council to rethink on what's going on here. An apology was sent out. Apology was accepted by council for Mr. Mertz to be able to send out. Why are we still talking about it? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments?
Hi, my name is Cindy Walterman. I live on Wagon Wheel Trail. Mr. Mertz is the only one up here who needs a reprimand for his behavior, and I, for one, thank Bill Kirk for doing this, simply because it cannot go overlooked. This is a repeat pattern of behavior that has continued for a very long time. Mr. Mertz engages in online bullying on social media that's unbelievable. And let me tell you something, Mr. Mertz. You are a public figure. He is a public figure. And people are allowed to make comment about him because he is a public figure. Go look up, fair comment in the law. People are allowed to make their comments about a public figure. And he is a pretty terrible public figure. He has bullied me for a very long time. I am the person who sent the cease and desist letter. I had called the police on Mr. Mertz back in 2016. There is a public record of it for harassment for text messages. There is a public record. You can go look at it. I called 911. There's a record.
Madam Chair.
He consistently bullies people online. Just the other day, he went after someone who was in AA and threw that up in their face when this person is in recovery for a long time. Went after her for that online. That is absolutely reprehensible behavior, and he continues it. And you stand behind him, Kim Zachary, and you stand behind him, Carolyn Schwager, every time. So I won't be surprised if you vote no.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments from the audience? Hearing none, there has been a motion made and seconded to censor Councilman Steve Mertz. We'll have comments. Now we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the censorship, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Any other new business? If there's no other new business, we will open the floor to public comment.
Madam Chair, Donald Green, 800 Village Drive, number 102, 15237. I held my comments about the resolution that was adopted regarding diversity and inclusivity. I brought that to you on Martin Luther King Day as an attempt to continue to keep his vision of a just and equitable nation before us. You have adopted a resolution that articulates a vision of who we want to be as a community, as a message to those who would look to come to McCandless, and that we are welcome. In one of our newer hymns in the church, the hymn ends with the refrain, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. And I hope the council, moving forward from this time, does everything in its power to implement that vision in a positive way. It will be a challenge because we live in a country where immigrants from Haiti and Africa are denigrated, where immigrants are called venomous snakes, where legislators to our north are xenophobic homophobes. We need to say that we do not agree, that we stand for inclusivity, equality, and justice. I hope that a summation of that resolution will be placed on the homepage of the Town of McCandless website, and would suggest that it replace the mission statement that is on that page, and that mission statement be moved to the homepage of the governance section. But again, thank you for articulating a vision of who we are in a very positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Green, for reminding me that I forgot to say is that we actually took the first two paragraphs and condensed them, and it actually is going to be on our homepage right under the logo. So I neglected to say that, but we are doing that. Another one of your suggestions. Thank you. Yes.
Chuck Ironman, Chuck's Auto Body. Just wanted to see if I could bring something to the board's attention that probably some of you may not even know about. It's in regards to the McCandless towing rotation. In the town of McCandless, there's a towing rotation that's currently made up of 5 different towing companies. I'm standing here today asking that if you all could take some time and review that policy, if there is one, and see if you could make some more positive changes to it. In my eyes, there's currently a few deficiencies, and I think they could be addressed. Maybe with the council, maybe if we all put our brains together, we could come up with something a little bit better. It's been brought to my attention, I brought it to, it's been actually, the police department has, some problem with it. I don't want to say that there are some good things. The fire department has some problems with it. Even the dispatchers are having some problems with it. McCandless currently has 5 towing companies. That, to my knowledge, of all the surrounding counties, no one has 5 towing companies. I'm asking that you consider either reducing the number or coming up with a little bit better policy. And this is concerning the town of McCandless in general. It's just not concerning my business. It is for the citizens. And one of the things that I'm pointing out is essentially response time, safety, cleanup, and I guess you could say the overall reputation and liability that the township is putting out, having 5 different towing companies out there.
Will you tell me your last name one more time, Chuck, please?
Last name is Eyerman, E-Y-E-R-M-A-N.
Mr. Arman, would you be willing to write out some of your ideas and put all this in writing, some of your suggestions, and put all this and send it to our town manager so we can look at maybe your ideas and revisit this policy and just
Sure. Like I said, I have some written down, but if you need it in a formal way, or if
You can just email it, just
Okay.
so we have what you're thinking about.
sure.
Yes, yes.
Madam Chair, the Chief of Police, DeSanti, and Mr. Robb, and I, and with some help from our Fire Marshal, Public Works Superintendent, at a staff meeting began a process of rewriting our towing policy. It's well underway. It's very comprehensive. We're almost done with it. So we will gladly accept additional comments and incorporate those where feasible, and comment with Mr. Ironman at a later date. But we're almost done with that. We'll be able to reveal that shortly to the Town Council.
How's that?
I appreciate that. And like I said, I think it's just important that the whole Town Council actually knows what's in place and how it's in place. And to me, having 5 different towing companies is a negative thing for the town of McCandless, not necessarily a positive thing. And if you would just please consider that in your writing, I'd appreciate it.
We look forward to getting your comments.
Thank you.
Your suggestions. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, sir? Yes. I just have a quick question. I listened carefully to what you said. What is the problem with the towing company? Can you express in simple terms?
Absolutely.
What the basic problem is?
So right now, there's 5 towing companies, and we go in a rotation. Okay, one of the biggest problems that coming up is it's very inconsistent, meaning that one towing company acts a certain way, another towing company acts a certain way. And when I say the word act, I mean by the way that they clean up, the way they interact with the police, the way their response times. And my biggest thing is response times. Some of us are responding within 20 minutes. Quote unquote policy is 30 minutes. There's other towing companies that are not responding in 30 minutes. And when you are either a firefighter or a police officer working the street and you're waiting there for 20 minutes and then you're waiting for 45, when you're waiting for 45 minutes for a tow truck to arrive to clean up the accident, every single citizen in the McCandless is being affected by that. And when I mean that, there's traffic backup. There's safety issues involved with the officers and the firemen. We just had one reason why I'm here is because we just had an incident about 2 weeks ago where the dispatchers, they are sometimes lose sight of who's on rotation. So when they go to call, come the first of the month or the last day of the month, they have to look at the list. Who do I have to call? Who do I have to call? And they don't know. And then the officers on the street are doing the same thing. Who's going to arrive today? Because how we arrive and how fast we arrive is how they choose to dictate and what path to go down in regards to maybe the, what the situation or the accident scene is.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
I'm Sister Mary Troutman. I'm a Sister of Divine Providence, 9000 Babcock Boulevard. Through the ages, a community has always considered itself blessed when a group of women religious live in the midst of the community. The Sisters of Divine Providence have been a presence of prayer and worship, compassion and goodness for 90 years in McCandless, an immeasurable and intangible benefit to McCandless. We've also made tangible contributions to the community. In the 70s, the McCandless Fire Hall, it was discovered, was built over the property line, was our property. In the end, the matter was solved by conveying a strip of land to McCandless so that the fire hall was unaffected. We petitioned the state to reduce the speed limit on Duncan Avenue as the limit was dangerously high. The reduction was a benefit to all. In the 90s, a 10-foot strip of land was taken from LaRoche College to widen Duncan Avenue. This land also was originally owned by the Sisters of Divine Providence and conveyed to LaRoche College. Over the years, softball teams have played their games on property owned by the Sisters of Divine Providence. Each year, on the first Friday of December, the Sisters of Divine Providence and LaRoche College host Light Up Night for the McCandless community. We've granted numerous rights of way across our property, facilitating delivery of utilities for the citizens. In 1963, we established LaRoche College. Today, people who reside in McCandless can have educational opportunities without crossing a river. These are only some of the tangible benefits. How has the town responded? You granted a building permit for an office building that suddenly became a shooting range. Your minutes refer to it as the McCandless Town Center office building. That's what you approved. You didn't even follow your own zoning ordinances when the project changed notably in size. Your ordinances address that. This was utter disregard for places of worship, business, education, residence, healthcare delivery. And you violated federal law, which requires that a shooting range be a minimum distance of 1,000 feet from a school, right in our front yard. And the address, Providence Boulevard, our name. How did we come to this? A professor of theology at Hofstra University recently wrote an article, and I brought extra copies, which you may feel free to take. It begins, "Dear Parkland students," you're right, of course. It has to stop. Allow me to suggest that the National Rifle Association's millions of dollars caused the deaths of your classmates and teachers. We don't want a shooting range in our front yard. This is opposed to everything we stand for, life. Shooting ranges are catalyst for guns. Guns kill. The more guns there are, the more deaths. So far this year, there have been 18 school shootings. At that rate, there will be over 100 by the end of the year. Armed teachers, all the decent and good teachers will leave teaching. Our schools will become the laughingstock of the world. I have a reprint from the Post-Gazette, which I will also leave for you. Across the bottom, it states the Second Amendment. Across the top, it says, "This is a well-regulated militia," with pictures relating to mass shootings that have taken place. Let us not forget the words of George Santayana, posted on a wall at Auschwitz. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Will you really issue a certificate of occupancy for a shooting range or for the office building you originally approved? What do you want your legacy to be? Thank you for listening.
Any other comments from the audience?
We received a letter. I don't know if you saw it in your packet. This came very late today. It was asked to be read into the record if so chose.
Okay, guess we're choosing. This was a letter that was sent to council earlier today. It was requested that it be read into the record. Does council want this? Just a nod would do. Okay. Dear Town Council, I met with Sam Rosenberg today to discuss the question that I had about lead management in his new facility. I concur with him that the meeting should have happened months ago. We had an excellent meeting, and I now have the correct information about the subject. I wanted to speak directly to council this evening, but I was attending a relative's funeral visitation in Clairton, PA. And then she goes on to say, if you would please read this in my absence. The letter is, Dear Mr. Rosenberg, I am pleased that we had our meeting today to discuss my questions that I posed to Town Council regarding my concerns about lead containment in your new impacts facility center, that you thoroughly answered them. I am now aware of how your facility will handle lead issues and all that has gone into the planning of this newly state-of-the-art facility. I have recently become familiar with the positive aspects of the rubber berm system versus the TCT system and that the rubber berm system provides the ability for police to advance down the range in a tactical approach. I am now aware that your venue will enforce the guidelines as outlined by the CDC for overall good health practices regarding lead. My questions have now been satisfactorily answered, and I apologize for unknowingly inaccurate comments I made to the town council concerning the merits of the various lead removal systems. This is a complex subject that I did not fully understand. I wish you the best in your business endeavors. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. This is from Georgiana Lykar, Grubbs Road. If there is no further comment, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive. Yes.
Is there going to be action taken after the executive session?
There is not.
You may want to do a motion to adjourn, that way you can close the public meeting and then go into executive session.
Okay, all right. All right, a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
And then you can announce that we're going into executive session for personnel.
okay, all right. Since there'll be no other business, we are going to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters. Meeting adjourned.